Watch this. No way!
I'm just going to do it from the top. Hello, and welcome back to an episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills, and today I am joined by Zane Scotland. Zane, you professional golfer, broadcaster, coach. Sum yourself up in 3 sentences.
All of those things. So, ex-touring professional. Still lives in my head that it could still one day happen. Golf coach. Started to work in broadcast, which has been interesting. Do a little bit on Sky, putting people to sleep on a Friday night in the studio, and then worked for the BBC doing some of the radio, more on course and like commentary, that side of things. That's a little bit different. Golf lover. I think if I was to really sum it up in everything, I would say my title would be Zane Scotland Golf Pervert.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got most bases covered. There's not much you don't do in golf, is there?
I like most things, but the one thing I would say which has never left me since I started when I was 11 or 12 years old is that I still wake up thinking about golf. And if I ever have a stressful situation and I'm thinking, I don't want to be thinking about this, I literally just start thinking about my golf. Like that is one thing.
Is it your golf? Or
that's my go-to.
Or is it like, when you, what's your go-to? You're thinking about your own swing, or are you thinking about score, or are you thinking about like what's happened in the world of golf?
I'm thinking about my own game. That is like
a golf narcissist.
Yeah, complete
like
golf
Sam
narcissist.
Williams.
Yeah, like that is my one place. Because I think if I lost everything went awry, and it was like, like I Am Legends kind of stuff, I would still just get up and play golf. I know that golf will be there for me.
As long as you got the sticks. This is your second time on the podcast. That you came on, I'd say, nearly 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was probably pre-COVID.
Yeah. A long time ago. Things have moved on. We've spent a bit of time together since. We're down at Leatherhead, where you've got the Zane Scotland Academy. We're just overlooking it now, actually, in the pouring down rain. What's happening with the Zane Scotland Academy?
So the academy was born out of, it kind of came about by accident about 10, 12 years too early. I was playing in the Middle East on the MENA tour. My back was starting to give way a bit, so I was starting to struggle a bit with playing full time. But I'd taken a keen interest in the golf swing, and had used one of the Mac O'Grady coaches for a number of years, and been on some of the Mac O'Grady Morad golf schools. So I'd kind of taken a keen interest in the technique. So I would always be filming my swing and so forth. And one of the players out there, young player at the time, was an amateur. Let's say he was like 12, 1300 in the world, a lad called Todd Clements, English lad, 17, 18. We're on the range one day, and he saw me with my camera. He was like, "Oh, can you have a look at my golf swing?" I was like, "Yeah, right." Playing in the same tournament, but he was an amateur, so there was no I'm not worried about helping somebody.
Even if he beats me by one, I still get my prize money.
Exactly. Yeah, do what you want, mate. And I just kind of gave him a couple of little pointers, and he went off and played well. And then he kind of came back the next week, and he said, "Can you have a look at my swing again?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then that just kind of like, that grew out really. And across about 3 months later, he said to me, "Will you be my full-time coach?" And at that point, I was thinking, kind of like mid-30s, thinking like, I'm probably going to have an academy when I'm like, 45, 50.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. My back wasn't great, so I thought, I've got time, I can help him. I'm not playing as much. So we did that. And over about an 18-month period, he went from like, let's say number 1400 in the world amateur rankings up to number 6 or 8 in the world.
Oh, wow. I think it's 600.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
He just bounded up the world rankings. And off of that, kind of born the academy, because then, one of his pals would come along and be like, I've seen we done with Todd. Can you do, can you have a look at my game? Another one would come along. I'll see what you've done. They're kind of born out from good golfers and elite golfers. And then there's one thing that you start to realise as a coach is that working with good golfers is a freaking nightmare.
Really?
And
is it not easier working
I can say that because I've been one of them.
Yeah.
Because essentially what you get is you get youngsters that don't really have any money and have loads and loads of time, and it means everything to them. So then as the coach, you're like, they're wanting loads of your time, but haven't really got the money to pay you. But I empathise with them because I've been in that position.
Yeah.
And you know how much it means to them. And then the other part is you're kind of having to coach them through life a little bit as well.
Yeah.
On how to manage things. So like they're just like the most taxing. And then you get the other part, which is like, oh, I've seen what you've done for Todd. Can you do that for me? And it's like, well, I can give you what I gave to Todd, but also Todd's really talented.
Yeah.
He's actually also really good, and he applies himself really well.
Yeah.
So he's a talent, which has now come to the fore because he's now pressed on. In his rookie season this year, he won the Czech Masters.
Yeah.
So he was obviously destined for that, and that was a piece of his journey. And he's now moved on. He works with Liam James on tour full time.
Yeah.
And again, for me, it was like I had to make that decision. Do I want to go out in the rat race to be on the tour as a coach? And it was like, no.
So that's right. Look, I need to say that this is going to be an Eclectic 18 podcast, but it's nice to get a little bit of background. So because you always know like the rat race of the tour as a player, and obviously it's hard, it's a grind, you've got to travel a lot, it's not necessarily guaranteed any money or whatever. It's a similar thing for coaches. They need to travel with the players, do they?
Yeah, so the coaches would have to be there. Some coaches would do it all week. Many of them would do like a Monday to Thursday morning and get out of there.
Yeah.
And the smart ones that want to pick up players will hang around on a Friday afternoon because that's when you pick up the guys that missed the cut and they're all pissed off with life. So yeah, and it is a real rat race because you don't get to venture much. If you've got a bunch of players, you can't really venture too far from the driving range because you haven't got time to get on the golf course.
Yeah.
And you're having to and there's not much you can do. You can't change a player's game much at a tournament.
Yeah.
So that's also difficult.
More like mental coaching, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's a little bit, and I can say this because I was one of those players, you have to babysit. Yeah. And if you're good at that, that's an art. But if you want to get into the nuts and bolts and really get into the trenches, doing it on a Wednesday afternoon is not the place at a tour event.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. And I think also being an ex-player, like I still like playing golf too much. And there's still a piece of me thinking like,
does it hurt when you're there and you're not playing?
I've been there a couple of times. Yeah, I was actually there.
Because you're still a very, very good golfer.
I was at the Kazoo Open at London Club a couple of seasons ago, and a friend of mine, Sue Tiley, who's from down at Deal, good golfer, been in the main tour and the challenge tour for a lot of years, and he said, "Look, I'm struggling a little bit. Can you come down?" And so I went down to help him, and you kind of walk into the range, and there's guys there, other coaches now know the kind of the coach scene as well, so those guys, and I'm looking along and I'm giving a lesson to this guy, and he's this guy Steve, a pal of mine, and he's okay, but it's not not quite where he wants it to be, and there's that piece of me is like, give me the club, right? See this and this, and I'm hitting shots down the range. I'm hitting nice shots because I can demo well, and one of my other pals is a coach. He was like about 3 bays down. Say, we're having a beer after the end of the day, and he's like, I saw you out hitting balls there. God, I could never do that. Like, but I was thinking like, I was there. All I'm thinking is like, I just want to go play. Like, I can literally go and tee it up, So. And I guess that part of it is in me. I think I would probably find that difficult being in there. You got to love it.
Yeah.
So for instance, like Liam James as an example, he'll be there all week. He loves it. He's there at 7 in, and he'll work with I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in a day, and he'll be there till late, and he'll hang around the range, and he'll just watch them hit balls after ball after ball. And it's not my style of coaching.
Yeah. So you've got the academy here. We're overlooking it. This is pretty much brand spanking new, newly built. You've kind of, I think it's fair to say Leatherhead's going through a bit of a transformation in terms of, we're sat in a wonderful clubhouse. I just had the finest omelette, I'd say. Yeah, the food is, mate. I mean, if you looked at Leatherhead's sort of tags on Instagram, it's always just like pancakes and omelettes and smashed avo. But wonderful clubhouse has been renovated, and you've got this area. Tell us about what you're doing out there.
Yeah, so there was a practice ground here, which was basically a field with kind of 4 mats, 4 hitting bays, no cover, anything. It was quite kind of overgrown, no real targets. And the owners got introduced to the owner, James Davis and Scott Dan, at the beginning of this year in March 23. They bought the course or the club in June 22, and they would kind of explain, this is the journey we're on. We want to make a really nice golf club for like a kind of modern day-ish, like still keeping the golf, but like, for young families, a welcoming place that, you don't have to be Like to a lot of people who won't like it, you can wear your hat in the clubhouse. Like it's fine. So, and that's what they started to create, and they wanted to bring us in and said, like, can you help us with the academy? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So they've invested heavily and really been really open-minded, and now we've got, it's still a bit boutique-y, 13 bay track mountain range.
Yeah.
We've got our academy up on the right-hand side, which had 4 bays. We're going to cultivate another bay at some point. We've got, off the back of that, now we've got a good home here. We've got a lovely looking range, and then just trying to have like a real nice environment. So we've got some good coaches now. We've got 5 coaches. Myself, Josh White, who played in the Retro Golf Day, actually won the gross at the recent Retro Golf Day.
67. I think that equalled the course record at West Byfleet.
He's annoyingly good. And then Henny Koyak, Mark Raven. I've got one coach here a guy called Billy Irvine, which is like, he's like a hidden gem.
Yeah.
He's like not on social media, but we call him Splinter because he's like, he just knows everything you need to know about a golf swing. He's the man. And so we all like sneakily use him for like our own golf game. So yeah, he's great. And then we just had another one of our friends, Lee Mackey, he'd come over from Walton Park. He started just over here. So we've got a nice mix of coaches now. And just trying to make a nice environment. Yeah,
and that retro day you came to was, it was good. You managed to break out the old Tezoids that you played in the first Carnoustie Open with. 99 Carnoustie Open?
Yeah, that 1999 Carnoustie Open.
Found those clubs in your old man's garage.
Yeah, didn't know they were going to be there. I was looking for some on eBay. Couldn't really find any of the right shafts. I was just chatting to my dad about it, and he said, but I've got your ones from the Open in the garage. I was like, okay, yeah, perfect. And then walking down there first, when you and I were chatting, Tom, kind of realised there's still dirt in these grooves. And I thought the last time I used these was on the Friday afternoon of the Carnoustie Open in 99, because Mizuno gave me a new set of clubs that week, and in true like junior
there's
style,
no dirt at Carnoustie, Zane. That's absolutely untrue.
I found it that week. There's plenty of it that week. So that was that was a bit of an emotional first few holes using those.
How did you find? But speaking as a coach and a decent player, going back to retro clubs and using that equipment, how did that all feel?
I don't know. The irons, oddly enough, was no different.
Really?
No different. The shafts in them are rifles, which you could use today. The specs are slightly weaker, but the irons are no different. Like, they went the same distances as I would expect. Absolutely no problems. I used Persimmon Woods on the day, which is a completely different beast, almost different sport. And it makes you, what I like about it was it makes you see the holes completely differently. So you get a tight, short par 4 with overhanging trees and maybe a couple of bunkers. With modern day equipment, you can just go over the trees and over everything. Yeah. There's no choice. Whereas you can still get it up there, but with the persimmon or the older equipment, you have to kind of funnel it into the same spot. So
use the ground a bit more.
It just makes you look at the golf course in a completely different way.
Yeah, I suppose for good players, when they see like all they see is bunker at 300. Well, I'm not going to go in that. Bunker at 220. I'm not going to go in that. And you can ignore everything. Yeah, short and long of that, and it's kind of like, okay, well, that's what I'm going for. But yeah, with the hickories,
so much more engaging.
With the persimmon, sorry, not hickories. It's you need to get a bit more run on the ball.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah,
but no, it's good fun. But we're here to get you on for your Eclectic 18, and thank you for agreeing to come and do it. I'd say there were some panic additions over the pancakes this morning.
Panic additions, but actually you pulled out a couple of my best ones. So I'm
really? Are you pleased with the ones at the end? Okay, so I gave you a remit of, I want this to be about I want this to tell the story of you as a golfer. Let's not try and pick the best 18 holes, because everyone likes the 18th to St Andrews. It's just a thing. So you come up with, I must say, a wonderfully eclectic 18. What's kind of some of the standout stories in here? Because you've got some really lovely stories attached to some of these holes. So where do you want to kick it off?
Well, I think let's start at the first. I mean, this one was a complete no-brainer. And as soon as you mentioned it to me, and I was thinking, right, my Eclectic 18, it just had to have this hole in there. And it wouldn't be a well-known hole to many people, but the first hole at Woodcote Park Golf Club, which is where I grew up, where I kind of made my golfing life, and that cemented up. That was the place when I was like, right, I'm in a really good environment, and I love golf, and that was where I spent my summers as a junior. Like,
what age did you start playing golf?
So I would have started at just before my 12th birthday, so I was maybe 11.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 11 when I started, and I wasn't allowed to join a club at that age.
Okay. So it's going down with your dad.
My actual first club was a place called Cobtree Manor, which is a public course, and the private courses in my area where I lived, you weren't allowed to join until you were 14.
Okay.
So in my first year, I'd kind of got at this public course, which was about an hour away. I got a handicap of 19, so I could play, but I wasn't allowed to join anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I went to this club, went to Woodcote Park, and they had a junior organiser there. And I went in, and you had to get for an introductory meeting, and I had to wear jacket and tie, all that sort of stuff. As a kid, it was like ridiculous. You got to wear a shirt and tie to a golf club. And and his son was a good golfer.
And you still think it, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay in some places, just not everywhere. Not everywhere. And then and his son was a good player. And he said to me, and he asked me about my golfing, what I liked about golf, and what my standard was, and so forth. And he said to me, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm 12." And he just looked at me and he went, "If anyone here asks, you're 14. Welcome to the club."
Oh, lovely.
So and then kind of what went, and then the other course in the area, as I got better, a few years later, they were like, "Oh," 'cause I went to them first. They were like, "Oh, we wish you'd have taken you on," but like this one man put a bit of faith in me. And
is that still a thing?
Really.
There's like minimum age to join, or
I don't think so. I do get the feeling that a lot of golf clubs don't necessarily like juniors. They either embrace them fully, or they're like, I think they
embrace really good juniors.
Yeah.
And it's like
there's so much commerciality in clubs these days.
Yeah.
Juniors don't bring in much revenue in the short term, and that's what it's looked at. They don't look beyond that is your future membership to the golf club, but junior memberships are just cheap, and everyone's trying to make money.
Clogs the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've joined Woodcote.
This is in Surrey, in Coulsdon, Surrey. The first hole, which by today's measures is a nice length par 4 of 460 yards. Back then, it was an absolute beast.
Yeah.
And I could just about reach the fairway, and at about 280, 290, the bunkers right and left hand side of the fairway, and there's a small gap through in the middle. And so when we started off, you get in the junior medal, and everyone would be on the first tee, and it was about, could I reach the fairway?
Yeah.
And if you could reach the fairway, that meant you got a good lie, which meant you could possibly carry the bunkers with your second shot to leave yourself a 9-iron to the green.
Yeah.
So that was always your benchmark of how far you could hit it. And then there came the day when it was I could get a bit older, and it was I can actually get comfortably onto the fairway, and I can almost reach with a fairway wood. So to drive a fairway wood to get to it. And that was the next level. And then came the day, was the day when you hit a driver off the first hole and it went into the bunkers. And it was you're under the lip, but you were so happy that you'd hit it so far.
Yeah.
It was I'm in the bunker,
showing off.
But yeah, exactly.
You're in a horrible position.
But actually, it's completely stupid. And then that was kind of the benchmark of now you can be a category 1 golfer pretty much, and that was you're made into that section of the club, because it was from my generation of juniors there, we had, I think 10 of us or 11 of us became professional golfers.
Wow.
So it was really competitive.
That's a lot.
The environment was great. Didn't really have a practice ground, but we had a great environment. So that was that. And then the next part was when you got really good, got to scratch plus handicaps, and then these springy drivers came out.
Yeah. Now
all of a sudden, this hole, which one day was a 3-shot hole, was now, I'm going to hit my Callaway ERC2 driver. It's going to fly those bunkers. So it's going to fly 310 yards, and it's going to bound on. And now I'm hitting my second shot from, 90 yards, 100 yards out, which was just it's like a real coming of age. That's where you are in your golfing life, if you can do that. And
you kind of look at it, and you've got your whole growth in golf through one hole.
Exactly. Yeah, that is, it just says everything. And now being a bit older, probably with equipment, I can't make that. But again, now I know that I've got to hit a necky driver or a little through to lay up, and I'm bringing a strategy in, because I can't just overpower like when I was a youngster. So now I'm a bit older, I'm using strategy to manage it. So it's just that one hole for me, just it's kind of completely told me where I'm at in my golfing life.
It's much the barometer of your golfing
One day
career.
I'll be taking 3 shots to get there again.
Do you think you're a substantially different golfer from when you were clearing it and what we talk about? What age are we talking about there? 18, 19?
Yeah, kind of 18, 19, just before being a professional golfer.
Yeah,
would have been the time. Yeah, that I was a different golfer. I used to be quite long when I was an amateur. Like in the England team, I would have been in the top 2 or 3 longest hitters. Whereas now I'd be like more definitely like a medium hitter.
Yeah.
Think my way around the golf course, and probably a little bit through injury and just youth and age in general, really. And I see the game a bit differently to how I used to.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of an evolution.
As a coach, do you see that as like a difficult thing to do with your students? That it's kind of expectation management of you're not going to do the same things you did when you were in your early 20s.
I kind of liken it a little bit to like Ryan Giggs. I'm a Manchester United fan. Probably loads of people log off now. And Ryan Giggs, obviously, he was like the young fast winger at like 19, 20, or 17, 18, 19, 20, up to 25. And then from 30, I remember reading his book, and he said from 30 years old, he's never done one sprint because his hamstrings would go. And so he adapted his game to then move across into the middle, play smarter. So essentially, like, he won Champions League being a young star, or won trophies being a young star, being like the big flash down the wing, and then continued to win trophies, and he evolved with time. A bit like, I guess Tiger's probably a little bit that way.
Yeah.
You just have to like recognise that you're evolving, and you can still get it done, but you just do it a different way. Like, yes, I'd like to smash at miles still, but my body would break.
Yeah.
I don't want to play until I'm like dropping dead, so I had to manage that accordingly.
You've got I'm going to jump to the third. We can always go back on these things. I'm going to jump across to the third hole you've chosen, Carnoustie. So this would have been you as a whippersnapper, 16 years old, qualified for the Open Championship. Why did you go for the... I would have thought that you could have probably picked any hole of Carnoustie because that week must have been amazing. Why the third?
Pick the third because that week of 99, the golf course was set up so difficult. It was a complete beast, like tiny fairways, the rough had been fertilised, the winning score was +6 maybe, the cut was +12 or +14, just ridiculous scores. And so every hole was so daunting and intimidating, which kind of, for me, ruined the golf course in a way, because Carnoustie is a great track, but its identity had been taken away by setup. And that was like the third hole. So the first hole is the first hole of the Open, daunting. The second hole is again super tight, it's super windy. Every hole you got on was just a complete like, if I just make bogey here, that's a good score.
It's wild, isn't it?
And the third hole was the one hole that couldn't really be tricked around with, because it's kind of a wideish fairway with water running across it.
Yeah.
It's a short par 4, so it wasn't done in by length. And it was the one hole where you thought, this hole is like this, March, December, during an Open, during a normal year. And it was one that wasn't messed around with. And it was after the pressure of like the first 2 holes, which you're just bricking it because you're playing in the Open Championship, the third was a slight little breather of like a tiny bit of respite in the whole round to like, I'm going to make a par or a birdie here. It was every single other hole was just like, just don't make any more than a bogey. And that was a good score. So, and I think it's just a lovely little hole. And I'm really a big fan of short par 4s that,
aren't we all?
That give you options. Like, I can lay up and wedge it on, or I can try and get it down close to the green, or, they can tuck a pin to where like actually down close to the green is no good. So I love short par 4s because you get on the tee and you have to think, where's the pin, and then and work backwards. Yeah. Rather than walking onto a hole and being like, if it's not a par 3, it's driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that kind of, I really like that. And that was one hole that I played a lot of golf since then. And when I think back to that Open, there's moments I think about, but when I think about holes that I like, it was always nice to get onto the third hole.
There's another story that I hoped would come up about Carnoustie, which I'm going to push on, was the practice round that you did before the Open with your dad when you were practicing bunker shots.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think that would have been I think it was on the 4th hole. I think it was on the 4th hole, first practice round. And this came up when we were at
I was chatting to your dad. He
day.
volunteered this to me. I thought, I'm not letting this go.
I couldn't know, until it reminded me. I was like, oh yeah, I did do that. And it's funny because, I mean, that's a complete evolution of the person I've become now to what I was then. So I was like 16 years old, had been playing golf for 5 years, found myself in an Open Championship. And so I was obviously quite sure of myself and what I could do and where I was trying to go. And we get to like the fourth hole, and we played up, putted. I thought I want to go hit some bunker shots, get a couple of balls in the caddy, go into the bunker, and so I'm practicing my bunker shots. And it's just slow. It's practice round. It's like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and there's like people. There's like a sea of people walking around, and there's people waiting in the fairways, like group on the next tee. And it's only when he brought this up I remembered it. And he said, he's kind of walked up to the edge of the bunker. He's like looking, and he's like overlooking me. I'm filling my grip or something.
This is your dad, yeah?
My dad, yeah. And he's like, oh, come on, mate, you probably need to get on here. I'm like, no, I'm working. I'm practicing my shot. I'm practicing here. And he's like, there's Tiger's down waiting. And I look back down the fairway, and Tiger's like leaning on his club, a bit like
teapotting.
But like, oh, come on. But in that moment, I wasn't pushed at all. I was just like, I don't care. We're playing in the same golf tournament. I'm preparing as well. And it was like, I remember my dad thinking, oh, okay. And maybe because you feel like a bit serious, a bit under pressure, I snapped at me a little bit like, what do you mean? Like, as if I should get out the way because he's playing. Like, we're both just golfers. But that was my attitude. That was why I got into the Open at that time, because I was just thinking, this is what you do. Whereas now, but fast forwards, when I got to play it in 2010, at St Andrews, there's a bunch of double greens, and there was an occasion I was on 13, he was on 5, and you can't take it in turns who's going to putt. So you kind of looking across, and he's over on by his cup, so he's got like a 15-foot putt for his par or for his birdie, and I've got like a 10-foot putt, and we're like looking at each other, and he kind of gives me a nod like you can go first. But then I'm over my putt and I'm looking down at the ball, and all I can think about is Tiger Woods. So my putter's moving, and I'm thinking about my brain is just over with Tiger Woods 40 yards away. And it was such a different moment to when I was 16, when I was like young and naive and arrogant and you don't give a shit about anybody.
It's wild though, isn't it? Because I think if you don't have that brashness, if you're not that kind of confident, you probably don't qualify for the Open at 16. It is amazing that, and youth is wasted on the young. And
when I did qualify, it became quite a big thing in the press, and I ended up doing loads of interviews, and then TV cameras turned up, and there was autographs and so forth. And I genuinely could not understand it, because all I could think was like, I'm only doing what I was supposed to do. Like, why is this a fuss? Whereas now I look back and think, oh, that's quite an achievement. But at the time I was thinking, but I knew I could shoot 6 or 7 under over 2 rounds. Yeah. Why would I even be here if I didn't think I could do that? I wouldn't try and qualify, would I? It was, just as a kid, you have a funny attitude.
It certainly is something that you look back on and it's like, I can understand the thought process. Like, well, yeah, I was supposed to shoot 3 under 3 under, wasn't I? What's the big deal? That's what I was supposed to do. Just skipping about here, we got a couple of interesting ones. So you've provided me little notes, so it's like nice hole, draw fade. I'm going to go to nervy make or break. I'm going to go to number 7, Sur Sierre.
Yeah, so number 7 at Sur Sierre is quite a famous hole. It's a short par 4. It's where they played the Amiga. So Sur Sierre is where they played the Amiga Masters. Were pretty much whole my generation of playing golf. And anyone that watches golf and would know it, it's a short par 4. It's about 310, 330, depending on where they put the pin position. It's at altitude, so it's completely reachable. Like the guys these days hit anywhere from like a 3-iron to probably a 3-wood. Yeah. Probably not quite driver. And I'd played there a few times as an amateur in the Amiga Masters and as a professional. And I think most golfers can relate to this. It's like some golfers can relate to it. It's essentially an easy hole. You can drive it. You can make an eagle. It can set your round off. But just right at the green is out of bounds. Yeah. So it's one of those holes which like you could step up there 3 or 4 days in a row in a tournament and ping it on the green, 2-putt for birdie. Cause that's the part of my round that gets going and I start to make birdies. But in that same breath, as you're over the ball, you're thinking, yeah, but if I spoon this right and make a double bogey here, I'm trunk slam. I'm going home for the weekend. Yeah. So in that premise, it's a real nervy hole, which should be an easy hole. and it's known, basically that hole is known for the views. Like you walk out onto the tee and you can see all the mountains around you, and it's like, looks like a picture. But as a player, it's such a nervy, great short little par 3 that, I actually found it kind of awkward and difficult to to just stand up on the hole and swing through.
Yeah, but you feel like you should make a 3. Like it does. It's one of those ones I think that, Sam talks about it all the time. It's these short 4s that you should make a 3. 18 at the old course being another one. They feel like if you don't make a 3, you're moving backwards,
getting away from you.
Yeah.
It's like the 4-foot putt. It's like a 10-foot putt mentally is easier than a 4-foot putt because you're supposed to make the 4-footer.
Yeah.
Whereas a 10-footer, like you move a bit more freely.
Yeah. And
Hole's still the same size, the ball's still the same size.
In Marco Simone this year, there was that, I think it was the 16th, was a par 4.
Precisely that, yeah.
But you were supposed to make a 3. And ridiculously, and this is what I don't get about golf, is if at Marco Simone, I think the stroke average would have been somewhere like 3.3, 3.4 that week. If that was called a par 3, the whole world would have been uproar and say it's absolutely horrendous or drivers into it. But it's just a number. Yeah. Like, who cares?
Exactly, yeah.
But
it creates like hero or villain. Like, you've got Ricky Fowler spoons it into the water. Oh, how's he done that? It's the only place you can't go. Tommy Fleetwood plays on the peachiest drive of his whole life, and he'll have that. I'm pretty sure he's got that drive and that shot tracer on repeat in his house, his academy for the rest of his days.
I'm going to go back to number 4 for a bit, only because it's a place that I know and love, and it's gone through a massive transformation. Talk me through the 4th at the Addington.
So yes, the 4th at the Addington. The Addington somewhere is close to my heart in golf because, one, I'm friends with Ryan. Ryan's a friends of the jar, and what he's doing at the Addington, restoring like such a fantastic piece of land, it's like really unique, and the amount of passion that he'd put into it, and you can see coming through, especially in this day and age where so much of it is about return on your buck guaranteed, and maybe just doing what you should do rather than like not what you should do, but what makes sense over like what you should be doing. And he's really taken that, and the golf course has just transformed so much over the last 5-10 years. Like I'll say to somebody, if you haven't played there for 10 years, play it now, you will not recognise it. And I just think that what's going on there, every time I go there now, being a member, I can't wait to get there. Can't wait to see what's the new change. I mean, just playing there in the summer, I remember walking to one of the tees, walk off the 9th green, walk up across the next tee and thinking, oh my God, there's a new hole. And I was thinking, I was here a month ago. And there's a new hole. It just something is being unearthed the whole time. It's like, and it's not being cultivated out of like adding things in. It's just like, this used to be here, and then unearthing it. Yeah. It's like, wow, and there's just like a real magic to that. And
that's a new little drop shot par 3 they've put on, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So coming back to the 4th, I think what I like about the 4th is it's interesting start. You got the par 3 up the hill, par 5, par 3. And then you got like this real strong par 4, 4th hole, low stroke index. It bangs left to right from the tee. But then up the second half of the hole, there's overhanging trees on the right-hand side and an infinity bunker up by the green. So in that, I feel like it's a true ball striker's hole. In that you get on the tee, you think, I need to draw this to the left half of the fairway into the slope to leave myself in a good position to then be able to fade a mid to long iron into the green. Because you can't really draw it into that green because you will catch the trees. You have to do something quite exceptional. You have to go way over them. So it's kind of a hole that asks those questions of a good ball striker. Can I draw this off the tee and hit a decent distance, and then can I now get in the fairway and move a mid iron left to right and stop the ball softly? And I feel like that early on in the round, you pull those 2 shots off, that just sets your tone for the rest of the day. You know where you are. Now, if you kind of spoon it out to the right and then try and cut it into the green, and then like double cross it into the heather on the left, and then you're hacking down, then you know what, that's a different type of day now. I'm going to try and chop it around. But you set up and then hit draw, fade, you're like, I'm on it today. Yeah,
it's got some of the most exquisite landforms around that green as well. It's like wild around the sort of the left side of the green is kind of the high side of the green, and it can leave a really tricky sort of up and down from up there, but then the right side's the low side, but it's got wild sort of undulations in that sort of low side of the green. And they've made the green surfaces a lot bigger, haven't they? So it can
a lot bigger, and that was one of the first bunkers I kind of noticed where Ryan had kind of changed it to, and the architects, De Vries and Pont, they started using affinity bunkers.
Yeah.
So when you're putting from the left hand side back down towards the right hand side, back down the green, you kind of have that green that no fringe drops straight into a bunker.
Yeah.
So it has that tiny, if you have like a 30-foot putt.
Bit of a sandbelty type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even if the bunker's 12, 15 feet past the hole, there's a little piece of you thinks, I can't really go at this. Like when's the last time I hit a putt 12 feet past? They just don't do it, but it just plays in your head.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, the Addington is somewhere that have done some great stuff, and it's interesting to finish off. I know you've got, if I just briefly touch on them, because they're worth mentioning. You've got the Prince's Shore second. You've got Sunningdale New fifth, which is a gorgeous golf hole. Absolutely gorgeous golf hole. Walton Heath Old. What does end of the run mean?
So I think the first 6 holes at Walton Heath on the old course, some of the hardest. It's like one of the hardest first 6s in golf.
Do you think?
Yeah, if you get out of that 6 holes in +1, as a pro, like if you get out of that first 6 and +1, you're kind of off to the races then.
Yeah.
You go par 3, par 5, short par 4, short par 4. Then the back 9 you can get at. Yeah. But that first 6 holes, again, it's a real make or break. Like, you've got to hit a lot of big shots early in your round. Like, you get no like run into like building up to a big hole. It's like 230, par 3, cold 2-iron, wind coming into you. Yeah. Second, not too bad, but still drive and a mid-iron. Then you get like...
The drive's laced with danger as well. Yeah. Left is dead, right is dead.
Then you get to 4. 4 is just like the most impossible holes in the world.
It's with the centerline bunkers and the centerline heather.
Exactly.
It's nailed.
Where'd you go there? Like, and then number 5, like, got that big swaley green, and then you get to number 6, which is like a sunken tee. Yeah. Sunken tee, so the fairway's above you, which is always quite intimidating. And then you can see heather up on the right hand side, 2 bunkers cutting into the fairway, and you just see this tiny little strip of fairway down the right of the bunkers. It's like almost, again, nowhere to hit it, because you can't lay back from the bunkers because it'll leave you too long in. So you just got to stand up and hit a proper shot and hope it comes off. And then I feel like once you get to that green, you're like, come on, then let's go.
I haven't said that. I think it's 7 is the par 3. Is that 7? That's not an easy golf hole.
No, it's not. No, yeah, true. Yeah, 7's pretty tough. But I always find that par 3s, as long as they're not 230, at least like you're on a good line.
Yeah, you're a professional golfer.
Yeah, I mean, tee shots for me have always been the most intimidating part of golf. Like, that's always been a make or break. To the point where my mum would, not a golfer, would come and watch me play golf. And she would, like, whenever I was putting, she would like close her eyes or walk off. And I'll talk to her afterwards and say, why do you get so nervous when I'm putting? Because I'm just so nervous watching you putt. And I'm like, putting's an easy part because I'm going to make it or miss it, but I'm good at putting. I'm like, Mum, you want to get nervous on the tee because I might never see this Pro V1 again. It might be the last time we spend time together.
I can't just be, I'm so nervous.
That's when the heart rate goes up, not on the greens.
Other golf balls are available. No, I would say, did you spend any time at Walton Heath for the Women's Open this year?
Yeah, we did. So I used to be a member at Walton Heath growing up.
Oh, did you?
So like, it was great to then see the Women's Open at Walton Heath.
I mean, it's a hard golf course, and they tore it up, didn't they?
It's a hard golf course. Well, I think once you get out those 6, I think that's a really scoreable golf course. Yeah, they had a few. They do. It's a bit of a composite course.
Yeah. There's I think 12 and 13 from the new.
Yeah,
and the
rest
so
they don't use the first hole, which is a tough hole, and then the holes they use actually, they're quite straightforward, but the longish holes, it's quite tough. But I think it was a great look for the week in terms of it looked lovely, nice and green, and it was a good real show from that point. I think from a playing point of view, I think they probably would have liked it a little bit more burnt out.
A little bit firmer, yeah.
But it was a really good show for the women golfers there. There was some fantastic golf played. There was like, a real vibe of like wanting Charlie Hull to win. Yeah. It was a bit of a Rory vibe, wasn't it?
I'm actually just making, we did a little bit of work down at Walton Heath, and I'm just finishing off like a commemorative film. And on the final day, on the 11th, we were following the final group. So we got Lilia Vu and Charlie Hull coming down on the 11th. And I don't know why I did this, but there was like a standy grandstand at the back of 11, and I went and stood to the left of it, and Charlie Hull was in the bunker on the par 5 11th in 2 shots. Horrible lie. But I didn't, for some reason, I didn't face Charlie Hull. I just turned around and started filming the stand, right? They all stood in the stand. It was framed quite nicely, so I thought, I'll just film those people. And then I just saw, go on. And like everyone starts creeping forward, and then they just erupted when she obviously. I didn't even watch the shot, but she'd obviously held the bunker shot at 11, and then you're like, Christ, there's 3 in it here. Yeah, this could happen. That was really. But what I forgot about. I went to 3 events this year. I went to the Open, Hoylake, the Women's Open, Walton Heath, and the Walk Cup at St Andrews. I'd say the Walk Cup at St Andrews was easily the best thing I've ever gone to watch in the history of my life, because you could walk the fairway with the players. There was only about 5,000 people there every day, which spread across the players was enough. But easily second for as far as viewing experience was the women's at Walton Heath. I thought it was brilliant. I walked with the final group as a member of the crowd, same as everybody else, and you could watch every shot and. It's brilliant. I loved it.
You felt a real part of it there. You were able to get close enough, and it felt like there's a lot more. I think to a certain extent, they're almost more real.
Yeah, because you feel invested in it, as opposed to I think at the Open, it's just too difficult to do that. So you end up like watching a hole, and you kind of seeing a shot and say, "Oh, that's quite skillful," but you're not invested in the story. And yeah. And I thought the women's this year, Walton Heath, was cracking. Right. The Nemesis hole, the 8th. We've got to talk about this, and then we'll skip on to the back 9.
Yeah, the Nemesis hole. This is a little bit like, the first hole at Woodcote Park, but pre that. So when I very first started playing, like anyone has, there was just I was getting going. I'd play golf with my dad. There was a public course called Oaks Park Sports Centre that had a golf course, and 9-hole and 18-hole, and we kind of graduated to the 18-hole. That was time to for big boy golf. And a nice sort of start to the golf course, and I was trying to, in that realm where you're trying to make 100. Like every Saturday you're going out, and it's like, this is the week I'm going to break 100 this
every week. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, and most of the course okay. I'm still a kid, so I'm still like dealing with my emotions of expecting everything to be perfect, even though I've only been playing golf for 6 months. And the 8th hole is a par 5. On a big slope left to right, with a bit of a raised green at the end of it. And obviously, so being a youngster, not being able to hit the ball very far, there's going to be an amount of shots just to get to the green. Yeah. And I can still remember to this day that 8 was my best score for such a long time into my golfing life. Because, that piece where it builds up in your head that, when I think back now, you're not even worried about trees or anything, but it was just something about it. I just couldn't make less than 8 on that hole. And it would always set me in a really bad mood for the rest. You spend another hour in a complete funk having made a 10 or a 9 or an 11 or something like that. And that was like a real, you couldn't break 100. It just wouldn't happen. And there was this one day where I remember holding a putt from the front fringe for a 6 and just feeling like such elation. And that was the day I broke 100. And it just I thought it was just never going to happen. And to be, what? It's one of those situations, if I'd never gotten through that, if I'd have gone 3 more rounds of making more than freaking 8, I might have just sacked off golf altogether.
Wow.
It might have just never come to. But then once I'd done that once, that was it. I was off and running then, and you break 100, and then that hole is nothing now. And I actually really want to go back and play that hole now.
When was the last time you played it?
I would have played that car.
Is it still open?
Yeah, it's absolutely still open. I reckon it will be 20... How old am I now? I reckon 28, 29 years.
You play it, I'll come film it. We'll go play that. We'll play that hole.
It's going to be such a disappointing experience because I'm going to go drive a 9 onto the green and it'll be nothing like, what was that?
Yeah, well, I'll give you kids clubs and you'll have to do it with kids clubs.
Also, another part, there's a road run across from the tee shot. And again, that was another could you reach? Can I get past the road in 2 shots? And then it was the day that I could then drive over the road. I think it was when I never went back because it was
too easy.
Completed this course now.
Yeah, life's too easy. The Belfry 10th. This is getting your tour card. So,
yeah. So
I've never got a card on the 10th before.
So, well, long story short, I had a car crash just before I turned pro. Had a few years trying to get over my injury. Was finally starting to make a comeback, and I'd pre-qualified for the French Open. Having had no tour card, did well. Went to the Deutsche Bank off of an invite, did well. So I went from having no tour card, barely playing Challenge Tour, to like now I'm getting invites into most weeks on the tour at the end of that season, and I've got a chance to get my tour card. And this was my 6th event of that year on invites, and I knew that I needed a top 10 basically to get my tour card, which from having no card in no status in May to having a tour card in like September was like unthinkable really. I borrowed 500 quid to go to the French Open qualifying off my mum in May, maybe start of June, to September, having like 300 grand in my bank account and buying a telly in the airport.
I hope she got interest.
Thinking just feel like I made it because I bought a 46-inch television. You know what I mean? Like it was such a moment. Anyway, so coming to the Belfry, myself, my whole team were aware that I needed a good week, and invites were running out to get my car for the following year. But there was one little piece of me being like, 3 months ago, I was borrowing £500.
Yeah.
Now, like, my life's completely changed. I'll have some sort of category for next year.
Yeah.
But still, you want to get your card. That is the one. And as a psychologist at the time, and we were going through my core strategy, and then obviously we get to the 10th, and the 10th of your famous hole. The first ever golf tournament I ever... That was short 4. The first ever golf tournament I ever went to watch was a 93 Ryder Cup. I'm watching Peter Baker there with his ping B60, whole 20-foot putt to, playing alongside Wisley. It was like the first shot I saw when I arrived, having parked up and walked out to the 10th hole. So it was like the first, so it holds a bit of a nice place in my heart for my dad and I, because that was like the 10th essentially was the first hole I saw of a Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And so it's a really reachable hole. Like you can get on there with probably a 2-iron or a forward, that kind of length with the modern equipment. And we're going through a strategy and I'm playing well, so I'm like, well, I'm going for 10. And my psychologist there is like, can you just do me a favour? Just any other week, can you go for it? But this week, can you just lay up? And I'm like, I'm kind of now tapping into my 16-year-old open at Carnoustie days, like, no, F that, what are you talking about? I'm playing well, I'm just going to hit a cutty through onto the green. And he was just like, he just pleaded with me that just this week, can you just lay up? Trust me, can you just lay up? I remember in the first round, I get to the tee, and the thing about it, the layup's like it's a freaking 9-iron. It's like a 9-iron or a wedge off the tee and then wedge onto the green. So it's like such a pathetic layup. And I remember just like standing there with my caddy and I'm looking across my psychologist who's standing about 8 feet away from me on purpose, but the other side of the ropes. I look at him and he's obviously not allowed to say anything to me, but I'm like, yeah, give me the 9-iron. Set 9-iron off, wedge it on, made birdie. Then I think a par, same again on Friday, made par. And then I think on the Saturday, same again, lay up, knock it on the green, made birdie. To get to the last round, I'm going quite well. And it's a back pin, it's a bit more accessible. And it was the first time I was on it. I'd hold a wedge shot on the 8th hole after chipping it out. I was like, I can't miss today. And I was like, really wanted to just go for it because they moved the tee up on the weekend as well. And my psychologist was there and I looked at him and I was just like, and I really had to bite my lip, and I was like, and I laid up.
Oh, did you?
I laid up again, knocked it on the green to about 10 feet, holding my birdie. So I then progressed that round. That round unfolded, and probably played the most nerve-wracking hole of my life on the 18th. Made a par. Did
you know you needed a par on 18? Is that where you...
I had an idea. In that realm, like I knew I was up there. More people come out to watch. I could tell that everyone else all my friends and family and team were nervous walking around. So I knew it was kind of there. You have a feeling. You don't know exact. Because obviously there's other things at play. And and I made a par at the 18th. And weird actually. Like,
do you feel like that was like a coming of age, that decision the sensible decision? It was.
It was. Because I remember sitting down afterwards and then my psychologist after the tournament going, by the way, you know that you played that hole in 300 pars. Like, yeah, he said, you played that the best out of anybody in the whole tournament. Nobody else is 300 or better. So it was a bit of a coming of age moment of like, yeah, that kind of works. So yeah, that's why that one's in there. It was a real smart paid off that one time.
I think we've got time for a couple more.
Yeah, we've got time. I quite like the 13th
The 13th
Yeah.
is a nice one, because I think this is a recent one for you.
This is a recent one. I had a couple of 13th, but I opted to go for this one. So this was the 13th at Queenwood. It's a par 5. So this summer I played in the Queenwood Cup. So the Queenwood Cup is one member and essentially a professional, or sometimes if the member is a pro, they would invite somebody. And it's kind of difficult to get into.
Kind of difficult to get into. I think it's easier to win the lottery.
Yeah. The point of first of all, you got to be invited. You got to know a member. Second of all, you got to be invited by the member. The third part is they've got to let you and that member into this pro-am, into the Queenwood Cup. So initially, my partner, a really good friend of mine, Rick Lewis, who's a member there, said to me, "Do you want to play in the Queenwood Cup this year?" It's like they play every 2 years. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to play. Great. Anyway, as it transpired, he put the entry in, and I mean, I need to get the list of the names up, but basically we weren't in. He called me and said, "Zane, I'm really embarrassed about this, but we didn't make the first cut. We're not in. Really sorry. I'm upset, but it is." Anyways, the field is, and he was like, "You're a bit gutted, but on the other hand, you're like, well..."
The field is akin to like the Seminole Pro-Am,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's kind of like...
The field is John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, Victor Perez, Tommy Fleetwood, Yeah,
it's all right. It's okay.
Decent.
Yeah.
It's decent. But interesting enough, I think the pros are probably more impressed by the people they're playing with, because they're kind of like corporate celebrities and such. But yeah, it's a fantastic day out. Anyway, so time went on, went in, no problems. Anyway, a week before, Rick calls me and says, "Right, Zane, they said that they've got a spot for us. What do you think?" And I was just like, I'm thinking, like, of course, it's a day out of Queenwood. Like, you're going to say yes any day, you get to go to Queenwood. But it was like, yeah, I was like, and Rick's super competitive. So Rick, yeah, let's go, let's play, let's win it. A little bit tongue in cheek, a bit like, it's not a bad field, is it? So we go there, and it's a lovely day. So many things I could explain to you, but one of the parts is the 13th hole. All the greenkeepers come out, all the staff come out, and they set up a TrackMan, and they have a longest drive. So now you've got a longest drive, which is somewhere on my Instagram. And
I remember exactly when this was, because I remember texting you saying, "What on earth are you doing?" Because it was a week before the Open, wasn't it?
A week before the Open, yeah. So that's why they had to get all the good players in town, basically. And as I said before, I'm not a long hitter anymore. Like, I just get it out there. I just try and hit it straight. But there's that little piece in you which is like, I wonder if I could just crank this one up.
I'm ready to break the body on this one.
Yeah, let's just turn this on a little bit. And anyway, and also there's a lot of people there. And it's been measured, so it's a bit you're feeling the adrenaline pumping, nervy. But there's that moment, it's like, I'm just going to throw myself at this, and hopefully it goes straight. And anyway, yeah. So the tee shot is quite a straightforward tee shot, and I threw myself at it. Again, you're nervous, so you can't really feel your arms, whatever. I was a bit pumped up, and I ripped it, come out in the middle of the club face, and it went dead straight. And they go down there and they measure it, and it was straight into the wind, but I hit like a nice knuckly tee shot, so that was great. And so we get down there, and it was like I can't remember exactly how far it was. So let's say it was like 303, but it was into the wind. But apparently, this is the thing, it hit a sprinkler head on the far side, it stopped it. So the boy down said it was actually going...
So it would have gone even further.
It was actually going further, but it did actually hit the outside of the sprinkler head, but I was like, I didn't care, it went straight, and it didn't go like, what I didn't want is to get a spinny one, go like 245 into the wind.
Yeah.
But it didn't go like that. Anyway, as it kind of transpired, I'm just trying to find the list now, was that Rory McIlroy is playing behind me, and so we're kind of watching anyway. So it looked like he hit a drive close where I hit it, and we came and I got the list for afterwards, and my drive went further than Rory McIlroy. And we're in the change rooms, and Rory came in, and he's like, "All right, Zane, I used to play with Rory like when I first got on tour. We both got on our car the same year at the Belfry." And he come up to me and goes, "Oh, how's it going?" He goes, "Oh, you still got it. I saw your drive out there." And like that, as a moment, as a golfer, for Rory McIlroy.
Is that the highest?
Honestly, I don't think there's not a bigger moment. There's not a bigger moment for Rory McIlroy to come up to you and say, like, "You've still got it." Knowing deep down, like, I haven't really got it. It was just into the wind and hit a knuckleball.
I haven't had it in years.
But to have that there.
But I've tricked him.
Absolutely magic. Yeah, that was such a big moment for me. So, yeah, and it's one of those little moments in your golfing life you think, I'll remember this moment forever. If him congratulates me and him
Isn't
out
it
driving,
strange
out
though
driving
that
him.
you've competed in open professional golfer, you've had really big highs, and this is the same for everybody in life. It's such little things that people really cling on to forever.
Of all the things that I've done, like I'd say I've done loads in golf, but I played in a couple of open championships and that sort of stuff. But it's like, and another part of that Queenwood Cup is like, when I was a kid, I used to get my name in gold leaf on the board all the time. As you get older, you turn professional, you don't get to play in those tournaments.
Yeah.
And now, playing that tournament, it was such a big deal to have our names in gold leaf in the Queenwood clubhouse, and my name's right underneath Rory McIlroy. And of all the things I've done in golf, that was like having that. I've got that now forever. Like that's one of my most like.
Is that enough
special
that
moments.
you would think about giving up professional status and turning amateur again?
I've thought about this. I've thought about this a few times because I'm a golf lover. Love playing. I would love to go and play the old championships I used to play in, but there is. I'm in that realm now where I'm not on tour. I'm not good enough. I'm not in that realm. I can play on tour now and compete and compete at the world's best. But I can still play. But I just feel like as much as I'd love to go back and play the amateur championship, try and play in the US amateur, to maybe get to Augusta one day, it just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's just something about it. It's like, I'm not an amateur.
Because you've been professional.
I've been a professional, and it would be hollow. I feel like it would be hollow if I did it.
Yeah, it'd be strange if you entered mid-ams, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's very noble.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not being arrogant. I'll definitely win them. But just if I did do well, it just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, yeah. I think we got time for two more. We're going to do 14 and 18. 14 is St Andrews with your dad.
14 is St Andrews with the old pot and pan on the bag. So I think this kind of like embodies what St Andrews is about. I think that when you first play St Andrews, a lot of the feedback is like, I don't see the big deal. Like, it's you can't see much from the tee. It's hard to see what the allure is. And then the more you play it, and you see all the different ways you can play it, all of a sudden, like, the magic of St Andrews comes out.
Yeah.
And my dad, I'd played there loads of times before the Open in the St Andrews Links Trophy as an amateur, and sometimes with friends. And then I was fortunate enough to qualify for the Open Championship in 2010, year that Louis won. And my dad had caddied for me in the qualifying, so then I could not ask him to caddy for me in the tournament. So that was a nice experience, having been back making an 8 at Oaks Park on the 8th hole to then walking the first hole of St Andrews in the Open, however many years on. That was a nice moment with the old man. But this one part was the 14th hole, it's par 5, hell bunker, par 5 at St Andrews, out of bounds all down the right, kind of reachable in the right wind. If it's into the wind, it's not reachable. Hit my drive in the fairway, and in the practice round I'd played it, I think it was downwind, so we were just like driver 3 by the green. But in the first round, I think it was like in 2 out the right, and so it was not reachable now from the tee shot. And having played there in the St Andrews Links Trophy and having had a local caddy, he said to me, well, if you go back down 5, which is basically hitting a 5 iron at nearly 45 degree angle to where the pin is, ignoring the hole, then that leaves you like an 8 iron or 9 iron, quite an easy approach shot to the green because of the way the angle of the green sits. I think most of the listeners probably would know St Andrews quite well. So, but my dad doesn't know this, right?
Yeah.
So he's taking into effect, he's looking at this Open Championship yardage book, which like you need a degree to be able to work out all the numbers and the humps and hollows, especially in St Andrews, as it is. So I can tell he's like working hard, trying to work that out. So I get to the hole, I'm like, right, I'm going to hit 5 iron, I'm going to hit it. And I'm pointing back down 5, like way left. 160 yards left of the midline. Yeah. And I can see he's just like, okay. And I'm practice swinging, and I'm fine. I'm like looking over here, but I can see he's worried now. Yeah. And he doesn't want to like step in because it's only the first round, and so I can see he's worrying and panicking a little bit.
That you've gone for the wrong flag or something. Yeah.
And he's like, and I stopped. I was like, by the way, Dad, I know that's the hole down there, but if you go here, I'm telling you, this is the line. And I can see he's like, oh, okay. But he's just completely bamboozled. And anyway, I hit my shot and I go left. And even when we're walking, I can tell in his mind he's thinking, what's going on here?
He's lost the plot.
but then there's that little moment when you get down there, which St Andrews does to you, which I always say, get a local caddy when you go to St Andrews. And you get to your ball and you've done something that the caddy told you and you go, now I get what he's talking about. But it's completely alien to everything else you're taught in golf. So that's got, there's so many different holes in St Andrews, but I think that's like a real. I just want to do something a little bit different, and that was one that that for me tells you the story of St Andrews.
Yeah, it's cliches are plenty for St Andrews, but it's a thinking person's golf course, isn't it? And if you can think your way around it, and it's so difficult to play away from a flag in any situation, let alone when you've got something on the line like you did at the Open. Okay, you've been very generous with your time, and I know you're a busy man. So, Downfield.
One more
18.
Downfield 18. This one.
Where's Downfield?
So Downfield is in Dundee. In
Okay.
Scotland. A nice lovely inland parkland course, very close to Dundee Airport. Not that many people would have heard of it. If you ever get the opportunity to go and play it, go play it. I've probably got most of my golf stories that I could talk about for an hour from this, and it's because I say this one because this is where I qualified for the Open Championship in '99. I would do some other chats and the other stories, but this one I picked the 18th hole here. Obviously for two reasons. One, because it means so much to myself in terms of being a 16-year-old, having to par the last. It's a shortish par 4, like a 2-iron, 9-iron. I mean, I say 2-iron, like I use 2 irons now. I used 2-iron when I was 16, not anymore. Left to right dog leg. 400 yards or so. Flattish green from memory. It was a long, long time ago. I was obviously on the cusp of qualifying for the Open Championship, making some personal history. Lots of people there watching, and first of all, hitting a 2-iron out the middle under pressure into the fairway, 9-iron onto the green, having quite a longish 2-putt, maybe 30 feet, knowing that any slip up, it's 30 hole qualifying, any slip up in so late on in the round could cost you everything. 2-putting for a par, and having that moment of then walking off the green, seeing the leaderboard, seeing them comfortably qualified, was a moment that I would never ever forget. To add on to that, I played quite early, finishing kind of having tee or whatever, overlooking the 18th green, seeing another crowd come down, Paul Lawrie come down the 18th hole, good tee shot, hit it onto the green.
Qualified
to about 40 feet. Anyway, Paul Lawrie holds this putt from 40 feet across that green to qualify.
Yeah.
In a big putt on the last green. I remember him fist pumping to get in, to qualify in the Open. And in those days, it was Sunday, Monday qualifying, and then Tuesday you're on the range at the Open.
Yeah.
So he holds a putt Monday evening to get into the Open, and then 6 days later, he's lifting the jug.
Yeah.
All happened on that hole, and it was just like, so the 18th at Downfield holds quite strong in my memory.
Zane, you've been a legend. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time. How did you find the exercise?
Really enjoyable. A little bit stressful towards the end, I must admit. But yeah, such a great exercise. It pulls out loads of stories, emotions, feelings off of my own career in golf. But what is nice, I think everybody has that in golf, and it means a lot to everybody. I would suggest for everybody to go through it. It's not a process that doesn't happen in 10 minutes.
No, it's a long one.
You've got to think about the pars, the balance of the course.
I mean,
so
you've
forth,
got 3 5s in a row, but I'll let it go. But I mean, I talked you down from 2 holes from the Wisley. That was the hard one. But we'll post the full Eclectic 18 on the show notes alongside this. Zane Scotland, thank you very much indeed.
Watch this.